Hi, I'm Chris with the Craft Beer Connoisseurs, and before the episode begins, I just wanted to provide you with a little information on who we are and how you can stay updated on all of our content. This podcast was created to showcase craft breweries and indulge in interesting conversation. We want to help promote a variety of breweries, and along the way have conversations ranging from sports to beer, and beer to, well, just about anything. Please feel free to follow us on Instagram at Craft Beer Cons, send a friend request on Untapped, or subscribe on YouTube at Craft Beer Connoisseurs. Also, drop a comment, like, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Now, stay tuned for today's episode. Welcome to Craft Beer Connoisseurs. I'm Chris.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Tyler. And along with us today is Producer Nash.
Nash, welcome. So in today's episode, we'll be reviewing Stonepicker out of Forest, Ontario.
And we're going to be trying two beers, as always. The first one is a Hack and Slash.
By Nash.
Hack and Slash Nash. Look at that. Which is an IPA. And the second is Big Red 9350, which is a red IPA.
Nice.
Interesting.
Double IPAs, but not double
No.
IPAs.
Dun,
Single
dun, dun.
IPAs times two. So to finish up the episode, we will be talking about investing and financial literacy.
All right, we're back. So as we mentioned, we are going to be reviewing Stonepicker Brewing today, which is out of Forest, Ontario, and it's located on Forest Road.
Convenient.
So, funny how that works. And it's actually
Amazing.
located on a farm. And the brewery and the farm are owned by Joe and Mary Donkers.
Yeah.
Interesting how it's like a brewery, but also a farm at the same
it's pretty
time.
cool.
A brewery farm.
Judging by, the farmer and me. Anyway.
Self-aware.
Exactly. So they actually planted 3 acres of malted barley with the intent to brew beer, but it was fed to the pigs because apparently they just didn't have time.
Yeah, brewing is a pretty intensive
It
process.
is time consuming, and when you got pigs to feed, I mean, it just kind of it happens, right? So once retiring from pig farming, they planted the barley again, and I guess decided to brew because they had more time.
Yeah. Nice.
Fair enough. Can't fault them for that. So yeah, they began brewing with an old turkey burner. Right? Some water, some hops, some yeast, the malted barley that Brett was talking about earlier, and a bucket used for picking stones. Hence the name of the brewery. So
Makes
it
a
kind
lot
of
of
all
sense.
came together.
Has anybody ever picked stones before?
I have picked stones
Those buckets
before.
are hefty.
Yeah, and we're getting a head nod from Producer Nash as well. So a lot
Nash just picked some stones.
a lot of
eh?
stone pickers at these parts here.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. This is, I think, the first brewery that we're reviewing that we've all been to together
Together.
At the same time.
at the same time. So yeah, we went to this brewery in 2019 for Tyler's birthday. I believe you were 30.
Yep. So now, if you paid attention to the producer special, you know where I live and you know how old I am. So this bio is
And we
coming
also
together
know it was
nicely.
Chris's birthday last time.
Last week. yeah.
Last week. And you know my Untapped handle. So
There
that's
we
perfect. Okay.
So you know everything about us.
Yep.
Awesome.
So there you go. So it was a good birthday. 30th
Yeah, it was
birthday.
a good birthday. We
Good.
took a tour to a couple breweries, and we had a nice little tour bus, which you arranged for us, which was awesome because, it's Forest, Ontario is a little bit out of the way, so taking a
There ain't
tour
no Ubers picking you up from there. No offense.
Yeah, we wanted to do something a little bit different, and
Yeah.
kind of the reason behind it was we had our wives, spouses, fiancés, girlfriends, whomever we had with us as well, and so there was a winery that's also close by. So
We actually shipped them off to the winery,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we could go there, right?
We said thanks for coming. Here's the winery, drop you off, and we went to the breweries. So we did a little bit of a brewery tour, and in the bus limo, I guess, which is always a interesting concept.
Yeah.
It was a very interesting concept for sure.
But the brewery itself, it was nice.
Yeah.
Some of us probably remember a little bit more than others. I mean, Phil from the ball team, shout out to you. But it was a good time. A nice brewery.
Yeah, it's a nice little brewery, and it's nothing huge. It's kind of like got the garage doors, like we kind of talk about with the other breweries, kind of standard. And yeah, it was nice, kind of open. Like they had the tanks out.
Right.
They have a beer called Tractor on the Wall, which we're not reviewing, but there was a big tractor on the wall of the brewery. So
They're
that was
very
kinda
literal with their names and what they
Yeah.
do. The naming of the brewery, very literal people.
cool. Yeah, and they're all kind of farm themed beers.
Those are farmers for you.
Yeah.
But I do remember that their staff that was working that day, they're very nice people and
Yeah.
all, like willing to kind of walk through. So some of us were craft beer drinkers, others weren't.
Yep.
And so they were kind of they gave it a little bit of an education piece, and I remember that. And they're just very nice workers. So
And knowledgeable. Like they knew you could tell they knew about beer.
You always got that one person who goes to a brewery who's like, give me the closest thing you got to a Bud Light.
a Busch Latte.
Busch Latte.
Yeah, but great people, really good beers. I mean, we didn't stay too long, but yeah, as you said, very standard brewery. The very kind of appeal, I suppose, is because it is on that farm.
Yeah.
So you have nobody to the left of you, nobody to the right of you.
You do have a little bit of somebody to the left of you, though. It's like a stone throw away from their actual house.
Yeah, it is very close to their house.
It
yeah.
is. It is very close to their place.
They can see the brewery from their house, which is a nice thing to have.
I was gonna say
Long
right?
commute for them.
But isn't that a bit of the dream, though? Right? Like,
Yeah,
you have the
totally.
property, you have the house, and now you have a brewery on it, right? And
Yep.
so you could tell that there's a very family-oriented kind of business.
For sure.
They put their own equity into it, right? Not just like financial, but
Yeah.
their time, right? So they're very passionate about it. So that was nice to see with it, right? So yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, they started with like home brewing, like as we went back to the point of using the turkey. I'm not going to say turkey baster because that's not right.
The burner.
Burner, yes. I don't know why I was thinking baster. I don't know what's
Not
going
sure.
through my mind right now.
Weird.
Anywho, but then look at what they've become. Again, open concept. You get to
Yep.
see the tanks. You get to see pretty much everything. It's literally like a farm shed that you can walk into and bam, beers.
Yeah,
to drink,
I
right?
think you're right. I think it was repurposed as a farm building, like you
Right.
said, a shed, and they repurposed it into the actual brewery.
Absolutely. So we all had flights there that day. For
Yes.
the most part, I think. Do you remember?
Yes.
Yes.
Some flights, couple
There was
pints.
our producer Nash. He had a flight there as well.
Yep.
I had to run his Untapped account for him. So
That's
that's
nice.
pretty much all
like-
I'm going to say about that.
So you're doing double duty. Your Untapped account and
My Untapped,
Nash's
his Untapped. He was telling me take pictures like this, and he's like that.
Yeah, that's good because
And,
we know that if you're going to be posting on Untapped, the picture says 1,000 words, right?
it
So you
does.
get
It
1,000
really
words.
matters.
There
So
were
Chris-
some blurry ones, so that might be on my end, not his end.
Yeah.
shaky hand syndrome. So, Chris, you went back in 2020 in the summer before.
Yeah. We went during, obviously it was COVID, but you could, they had a huge patio out. So they had their picnic tables. It was a really nice spot. So basically what we did is we had a family photo shoot in, the sunflower farm or field. It was very lovely.
So beautiful.
And I said, why don't we get a beer afterwards? So,
One in Rome.
It's literally
One in
the
a row.
only way you can do family photo shoots is you got to have a beer afterwards
or before.
or before.
Yeah.
or both.
Whatever works for you.
Yeah, so-
not during though.
Yeah.
No,
Not during.
probably not a good idea when it's going on a Christmas card. The field that they had of the sunflowers is part of what's called the Miracle Max's Minions. So there's a couple of fields that kind of do this stuff.
Yeah, so in terms of Miracle Max's Minions location, which is at the brewery, Max was actually a 2-year-old who passed away due to leukemia. And every summer there are several sunflower fields planted in his honor. And obviously donations go to charity.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've talked with other breweries in the past, mentioned with their charitable efforts. So again, another craft brewery doing something that's absolutely
For sure.
fantastic. So shout out to Stonepicker, and again, that's Miracle Max's Minions. Check that out at some point in time in the future.
Yeah, they should be doing it again this summer, I would imagine.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yep. So with that being said, they don't actually, when we talk about the beers, they don't can or bottle their seasonals.
Yeah.
So you have to have that on draft. So
Got to get down there.
if there's a seasonal in the summertime and you're talking about the sunflower fields and all that, go support a good cause and make sure that you have some of their seasonals that you won't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I like the idea of, drawing people to the actual brewery itself. Like, hey,
Yeah.
these aren't going to be in the LCBOs, beer stores, bottle
Right.
shops, whatever. You have to come here to get something special, right?
Yep.
Nothing wrong with that.
So that's good. Yeah. And then there's a specific story with Stonepicker beers. Chris, do you want to fill us in on that?
Yeah, so the beers that we're going to be drinking on today's episode are courtesy of Mary and Joe Donkers. So it's kind of interesting because we had been in touch with them in kind of like early September when we were beginning to plan out the podcast. And we were talking about maybe getting them on an episode. And we hadn't really heard much from them after that.
Yeah.
And then we got a nice email. Mary and Joe took a trip into the city, into London, and they dropped the beers off right at my front door.
Wow.
Merry freaking Christmas.
Yeah. So that was a great Christmas
I thought you were going to
present.
go somewhere like Merry Donker's Christmas. I was like, all right, well, I'll let you have it.
No,
That's
no.
good. That's good.
Anyway, obviously, we will link all their social media information on our Instagram, Untapped, etc.
Yeah, so let's check out these beers. All right, so thank you again to Mary and Joe for the beers on today's episode. And the first beer, as we mentioned, is Hack and
the
Slash.
delivery. The delivery
Yes, I was just going to
key.
mention delivery.
Yeah.
Thanks for
The
dropping them
very
off at
special
Chris's house.
delivery.
Yes, thank you.
Much appreciated.
Yes.
They went the extra mile, for sure.
They went a couple extra
A
miles.
couple, yeah. So the first beer we're doing is Hack and Slash, which is an IPA with a 6.4% ABV and 44 IBUs.
So this one has hints of grapefruit, passion fruit, and tropical fruit produce. With pleasant citrus aromas, it ends with a smooth finish with little bitterness, unlike your typical IPA.
Okay.
Interesting.
That'd be interesting
Yeah.
when we get in there to taste her up. So on Untapped, you can follow us at Craft Beer Connoisseurs, and we talked again about Untapped at our last producer special. So
Yeah.
listen to that episode too. The overall rating for Hack and Slash is 3.7 bottle caps out of 5, and a total of 532 check-ins. So
bad.
from a smaller kind of brewery, a brewery that's kind of not in the mix of other places.
Rural, if you will.
Yeah. It's a pretty good rating with
I'd say
a
so.
decent amount of check-ins.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we could probably get ready here, fellas.
Let's do it.
Let's open her up. All right.
So exciting.
So as we pour the beer here, just want to let everyone know that we are, of course, drinking out of an IPA glass with an IPA. So make sure to use your proper glassware.
It's true. Do use it, or Chris will find you.
So taking a look at it, kind of stereotypical of a normal IPA, I'd say.
Yeah.
Kind
It's-
of got like a I don't know, what do you want
Like
to call
golden,
it? Golden,
kind of,
yeah,
yeah.
like a golden color, kind of color to it. Again, this is the thing that I love about the IPA glass is just the way that the structure of the glass is from a smaller area to then a larger area in the glass. So you
Yeah.
get kind of a different color
Different
profile.
colors. Yeah.
It expands itself out. So yeah, it
It
becomes
just explodes with flavor, if you would.
yeah,
Yes.
a little less girth to a little bit more girth on that, right? So it
And
is
an
nice.
IPA glass is my favorite style of beer glass for sure, right? And just the way it just looks a lot nicer versus a Pilsner glass or anything
Yeah.
else like that.
And it's nice to hold, too.
Right? It's nice
Yeah.
to have in your hand. For sure.
Good hand holding glass.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a little bit through. I do see a little bit of sediment. I don't know
Do
if
you?
it's just a little bit, but maybe
I'm getting a lot of like carbonation, a lot of bubbles
Yeah,
flowing
I'm
up.
seeing a lot of carbonation for sure.
yeah. And again, that speaks to the glass, right? Because it kind
I
of
think so.
facilitates that carbonation mounting from the bottom to the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot to kind of go in with this, and we'll see probably some very similar comments. Maybe just a little bit of the color change, if you will, for the next beer that we try
For the
today.
next IPA.
But
yeah.
again, IPA, right? So
Yep.
Loads
IPA
of
day.
IPAs.
that's
Yeah.
what we have to say about the IPA.
Yes. Indeed, indeed,
So,
indeed.
in terms of smells, like what are you guys getting out of this one so far?
I kind of get like just a hint of. I'm trying to put my finger on it.
Put
Maybe I should put my nose on it
Yeah.
instead of my finger.
I'm
It'd be
getting-
really weird to put my finger in the beer in order to smell it. I don't want to do that.
I'm getting more of the piney,
Yeah, me too.
more so than
A
I think
little,
with
a little
some of the
piney
others.
and a little bit malty, even.
I'm getting more malts for sure. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna say I don't know if you're supposed to normally get that out of the style of IPA, but we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah,
All right.
We'll
Well,
see.
that's on the nose and on the eye.
on the eye.
Now, why don't we see what on the mouth?
Let's do it.
All right.
Aha.
Find out on the mouth.
I can't even take a sip right now. You know,
Yeah,
like,
I gotta hold out my laughter till Chris
said-
takes a sip, putting it on his mouth, in order to then drink the beer.
Where else would you take a sip from?
That's a really good question.
sip, don't pass. COVID rules.
Yeah, I don't think you want to do like a John Cena move in the movie Blockers.
Probably not.
All right. So we move forward with the conversation on the beer.
Well, I've taken a couple sips here with my mouth, and
Well, what do you get?
I do get a little bit of that fruitiness, that citrus coming through, but and they mentioned a little bit less bitter on the back end, but there definitely is bitterness on the back end.
High on bitterness, almost.
Yeah.
Like it's almost too overpowering on the bitterness,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Yeah, so
It's not worth much though.
we have all had this.
We have on our trip that we mentioned down to
So
the brewery.
we've had that. So now that is going back a year and a half ish.
Pretty
Around
much.
that,
I'll say, right?
Around
So,
that.
so again, we can kind of see the development of. I mean, the recipe probably hasn't changed. One would kind of guess. Tough to say.
I wouldn't imagine so.
Tough
but
to say.
Yeah, who knows?
But different flavor profile, I think, than the first time I had it. Right. So.
And we also had it. We all had it off of the keg,
Right.
The first time,
So
and we're having it
through
out
draft.
of a can, obviously.
Yeah.
So
that's
could
good.
be a difference.
That's good to mention too, right?
Yeah.
Because you might have different, the same beer in different ways, whether it's through a bottle, a can, or draft, and you're going to see different variations from it, right?
Yeah.
And it speaks to the freshness of the beer as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we could have had the beer right from a keg that was brewed not too long before,
like a couple of days before, even. Yeah.
whereas we might be having these cans. I don't know, Brett. The cans are special. The can,
I was looking to see if there was a canning date on it.
Is there?
And there is no canning date on
even
it.
on the bottom.
Nope.
Make sure all the beer's poured out
That's
first.
usually where the canning date is placed, is on the bottom of most. Not all, but
Yeah.
most.
Right. So
And I mean, they were delivered in around Christmas time, right? So it's at least
2
months
So
old,
interesting
we'll
to
say.
note.
right.
Interesting to note that you're supposed to drink an IPA within 3 months, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these things have been sitting in various locations for about 2.5 months, really.
Yeah.
So, just a side note there. So maybe we're not getting this beer as fresh as one would want it.
Right.
But then it also might motivate us to go back out to Stonepicker to
yeah,
get
for
it
sure.
fresh again, right?
Still,
yeah.
still a good quality beer. I just think the first time I rated it, I was at a 4, and we'll see what my rating is after I kind of get through this beer a little bit more. So we'll take a look at that.
A taster of his rating, if you will.
Little foreshadowing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who wants to do the top 5 flavor profiles?
Maybe I'll jump
Normally I do, but
on
yeah.
this. Yeah. So the first one is hoppy, followed by we're doing it that way. Yeah.
You never know what you're gonna get.
Whatever Brett
I'm
decides.
just full
that
of
day.
surprises.
Yeah. So if we want to kind of break it down a bit,
Yeah.
hoppy, I'm not getting a whole lot. Like there's IPAs that are very, very hoppy. I think this is not as crazy hoppy, but I don't know if it makes my number 1. But
It's mellow in terms of hoppiness, but you know it's still there.
yeah, I just don't know if it's my number 1.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so and this is looking ahead at these profiles or flavor profiles, we're going to see some weirdness, I think. So number 2 is citrus, which I don't think is weird, but which I'm getting.
Right.
But number 3, aromatic, which I wouldn't say is a flavor.
It goes back to when we did the slurp one, and the one was green.
Green,
right?
yeah.
But at the same time, if I said, could you describe a flavor profile from aromatic? I think you probably would, but you just use different terms, right? Like more
Yeah.
of like your flowery kind of, hibiscus, whatever it
Right.
might be, right? So
Yeah.
I can understand that.
And then the next one is citrusy. So not only citrus, but citrusy.
Yeah.
So kind of a duplicate there. And then number 5 is bitter, which I would say would be much closer to the top for me. And it looks
Right.
like
I would also agree with that, yeah.
Producer Nash as well as saying that.
Nash 100-yard dash has agreed with all of us in terms of having the bitterness on the back end. So in terms of the can, before we go into other people's Untapped ratings, it's quite a colorful can, actually, if you will. It's a very nice design. It's almost like the picture of a tool shed with all the tools, if you will, in terms of screwdrivers and hammers, etc. It's nice. It's nice. It doesn't look like my shed at all, because I am not a person. Would you say a connoisseur of tools? But
I thought you were going to say something about like organization skills.
Yeah, because it's a very
some of
nicely
those lines.
organized
yes,
wall.
Yeah.
it very, very organized, which is something I am not.
Who was it, like Marie Kondo or something?
Oh, the organization woman.
Specialist? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an organization woman.
Yeah,
There's
she has a
organization
TV show, I
specialist,
think, right?
I have never ever seen that.
I would like to see maybe a producer special probably in the future, or when we sit down and talk to brewers or breweries in the future and future seasons, to kind of go through and say, what do you spend your time on, right? Because some people put
Right.
a lot more emphasis onto can art, and you can see that this is it's a tall boy and it's full can art, right? So like that's different than just putting a sticker label on it.
For sure.
So where do you spend your money? How do you market it, right? And that's interesting because here, again, to your point, Brett, is it's a nice can and it's a full can art. So
Full old can. You got that right. You got into a way better conversation than talking about that organizational lady and that TV show. So thank goodness you pivoted from that. But speaking of pivots, let's take a look at some user thoughts for people that are untapped about this.
Yeah, so the first one comes from John D. Handle is Johnny D21. On September 11th said, simply, man, this is a good IPA. And John gave it a 4 out of 5.
Man, filled with words.
Yes.
Really descriptive in terms of that one.
yeah. So we look at another one, Chris S. Chris Smith 309 commented on August 15th, in fewer words, if you will. Solid IPA, nothing fancy, and gave it a 3.75 out of 5. So, Chris, an individual of fewer words than John.
Yeah.
That's what we've decided on today's
I guess
episode.
if you're drinking this beer, you just have very few words to describe it.
You're just enjoying the beer too much that you really don't want to describe it at all.
That's just it.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'll start the ratings because
Do it.
why not? When I had this kegged back in 2019, obviously I had it at a 4. And maybe this is just part of the reason, it's been sitting around for a couple months. It wasn't pretty much drank and fresh. But my rating is going to be a 3.75.
Interesting. So I'm actually thinking along the exact same lines. So I had it as a 4 when we tried it at the brewery, and I'm going down to a 3.75 today.
Wow. Yeah. So again, same sort of thing. And this is probably part of the canning and that process.
Mm-hmm.
But for myself, I was at a 4. I'm going to be going down to a 3.5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Still
Huge
a good beer.
jump. Huge jump, yeah.
Still a good beer.
Still a good beer.
But again, served in a different manner. And yeah. So the producer's rating, we do have the producer coming out of 3.5 as well. So we have 2 3.75s and 2 3.5s. Chris, what does that give us?
So that gives us an overall of 3.625, which...
I would round up,
Do we
but that's just me.
Yeah.
do we want to take a poll on it?
Okay, now I'm thinking about it. Let's round up.
Yeah.
3.75.
Winner! Daniel!
I think part of that speaks to what our ratings were off the draft as well. So,
Yeah,
so
true,
to give it
true.
a little validation
Yeah.
is that it is a 3.625 for today on the can. However, we did have the three of us at 4s off the draft. So
Yeah, fair enough.
up she goes.
It just
enough.
means we have to go back and try it again off the keg, right?
Yeah.
Hate to see it. Hate to see it.
Exactly. Anyway, beer number 2 is on deck next. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, for the second beer of the day. And we are having the Red IPA, which is otherwise known as Big Red 9350.
93.50.
And it has an ABV of 6.25%. That's right, 6.25%. Very exact on the numbers there.
Yeah.
And 37 IBUs.
So interesting to note before we kind of continue here. On the can, it says 6.1. And so we have a bit of discrepancy.
Yeah, so the 6.25 was taken from their website, so it's interesting that
And yet the
there's
can
a
says
discrepancy.
6.1.
Yeah.
So maybe they
We've
didn't
been
want
lied to.
We'll have to talk to Joe and Mary about that.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of them classic bonkers donker situations. But we'll have to touch base and see what it actually is. But we'll talk more about the can later on. I'm sure, Brett, you're going to pick that up later, right?
I might.
Yeah, most likely that's his thing, right? So this beer is made with crystal malts and roasted homegrown barley, which produces the deep red color that we'll see once we crack that open. And it also has citrus flavor, which gives it a fragrant aroma and a smooth taste.
All right. So, yeah, this beer, as we've talked about in the opening there, about the brewery, about how they name their beers after relevant information with farming.
To a farm, yeah.
So this one was named after the Casey. Some would call it Case, but I think it's a Perth County thing. Brett, back me up on this one.
Yeah, I agree.
The Casey IH 93 Fetty tractor.
Whereas I go by case, IH. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you
A
want to know
city
what they
kid.
don't go by? John Deere.
Classic city kid syndrome. I get it. So yeah, the KCIH 93 Fetty tractor, and on Untapped there's 426 check-ins with an overall rating of 3.6 bottle caps, Go to the 5. So, all right. I think we all know where we're at with this one. All right. So I got the can in my hand here. Let's open her up.
Well, I'm glad you did your shtick again. That was lovely.
Gotta have something.
Hey,
something.
you know what?
Well-
It's better to have something than nothing.
It is, and we're drinking out of an IPA glass today for this beer with a red IPA. So a couple of beers. Out of
Hold
the
on,
IPA
hold on,
glass.
hold on. Are you
Yes.
drinking out of a red IPA glass? Is your IPA glass red? The color red?
It might be.
Is there an actual thing?
No.
Oh, okay.
We don't want-
Shout out to Shorty who thought we
Yeah.
actually had a double IPA glass.
In the previous
it's no such
episode.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we fooled people with that IPA glass.
Yeah. All right. So as we're talking here, we're talking about the beer. So big head retention on it,
Definitely a lot.
and yeah, Fife. What do you have to comment on that?
Well, it definitely pours strong right out of the hop, right?
Yeah.
See what I did there? Right out of the hop.
Yeah, a nice farming pun.
Yeah, you see
Yeah.
what it, well, and a beer pun.
Beer pun.
Well, yeah.
Beer pun,
true.
farm
Regardless.
pun.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything I say is a pun.
Yeah. So when you kind of hold a light up to it, like it's a darker kind of beer, right?
It's very dark.
But
yeah.
you get that light up to it, and you get more of that amber color through it, right? So I haven't really taken a sniff of it. Have you guys?
I have now.
It's not very strong.
No.
The aroma's not that strong.
No, it's not even almost there at all.
Not
I
a
think.
whole lot coming through on it.
I think the malts are going to be dominating this beverage.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Well, I think we should probably get into it and see what
Shall
we got,
we?
right?
Shall we
Let's
do it?
do it.
All right. I can drink to that. Can you guys?
I'll get into it for
Perfect.
sure.
That's interesting. It definitely tastes more like a red ale with a lot of strong bitterness at the end.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
exactly where to kind of put this.
Yeah, where do you start with this one? So it definitely doesn't taste a ton like an IPA, which I think is okay, which we kind of figure. But yeah, a little bit like a red ale with some more bitterness in it.
Yes, I think so. Like in terms of that, like I think it's almost mislabeled as a red IPA. It almost
Yeah.
should be labeled more like an amber, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm getting more is more of an amber vibe to it, I suppose. Maybe that's a better way of putting it, Brett.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe we should just roll right into the top 5 flavor profiles.
I can take the lead on that.
Yeah,
I can
let's
do that.
do it.
All
Yeah.
So
Rip it.
Hoppy? What are we thinking?
I don't really get hoppy.
You don't get hoppy? I don't.
No,
get hoppy
I don't
either.
get hoppy
No.
on it. And producer Nash isn't getting hoppy either.
Smooth.
Yeah.
Does this
I'm
beer
getting
go down smooth?
I'm getting smooth.
Okay.
Yeah, I get that.
I definitely agree the beer goes down smooth. What about malty?
Yeah, definitely malty, and I think it might be even higher than number 3.
Oh yeah, that'd be number one for me for
Yeah,
sure.
I think so. And,
Okay.
and looks like producer Nash is saying the same thing.
Yes. 4, deep.
No, not
No.
really getting anything there. I mean, I don't even know what that would
What-
even look like.
What would deep even taste
Yeah.
like?
I literally have nothing for that comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's
That-
literally just
and,
nothing
and we,
I can
and
say.
we talk about how there's always like a random flavor profile
Right.
from the top 5. I think
This is
the
it.
one. Yeah.
This is the one.
The toss it.
And number 5, citrus. So hints. What do you think? Do you think get some hints of citrus in this or no?
See, I'm not. I agree with what we were saying earlier on about the amber style.
Yeah.
And I don't think really any one of these top 5 really kind of like jump out at me, right? So that's my palate. So
Yeah, the citrus is there a tiny bit, and it's not as much as you would expect from like a New England IPA, for example, but it's more than you would expect from a amber. for
I
example.
definitely agree with
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
100%.
yeah. So maybe we go to the can.
Oh, yes. My shtick again, as they say. So this one, if you know what the big case tractors.
Oh no! Oh no!
Oh, did I screw that up?
I thought you were a Casey guy.
Oh, maybe I am. I just wanted to see what you'd say to that. But no, the Casey tractors. It's got the Stonepicker where Casey, the label would be, by the way. But it definitely is big. It is red. And it's got a nice silhouette of dusk.
Oh,
Nice.
Right?
nice.
Like that's farming at nighttime.
Yeah, farming.
Yeah.
Yeah, late into the
Late
evening
in-
for
who
sure.
doesn't want to crack a beer after a long day of farming?
True.
Brett?
And me being the farmer that I am, I would.
And so the I in the Stonepicker on the title, is there anything different there?
It's corn.
Is it corn or wheat?
wheat.
Farmer fight.
Yeah, so
I had
much
to do
of a farmer you
a
are.
double check at it.
Let us down again.
I only lived on a farm for the first 4.5 years of my life. Obviously, when you're a newborn, you don't really farm that much.
There you go.
Your parents do it.
So again, they
there.
spent some time. They spent some money on the canning, and it is a full can image. It's a nice image,
It is true, but it does say 6.1% on the can.
as we've talked about.
Yeah.
The discrepancy between the two.
I was just making sure that we knew about that.
All right. Well, I am getting worried for Brett Pfeiffer if you slip it a little bit. So let's go to the Untapped. I'm going to start it off. We have Andy J. Mr. Tibb on November 20th that said, probably the darkest IPA I've had. It's good with an exclamation mark. So I'm assuming that Andy has not had a black IPA before. Even though this one is a red one, right?
Because this IPA is certainly dark, but it's not the darkest that I've ever seen. I've seen darker when I have a black IPA.
Right. Now, Brett,
Same.
I was going to say, Brett, did you have any? Okay, so that's
Just saying.
3.75 out of 5. Brett, you got the next one.
I definitely do. So this one's from Sam S, and their username is StatStoy, so SATSTOY. On October 18th, commented, "Very nice. Could have many of these. Too bad I'm not closer to the brewery, so I'm assuming they live far, far, far away from the brewery."
At least too far to make a regular trip, right?
But they did rate it
Right.
5 out of 5.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
That was their rating, 5 out of 5.
That's
All right.
amazing.
I'm not going to agree with them. That's just me.
Fair enough. So out of the 5 bottle caps, I'm going to get this train rolling. I'm going to be a 3.25. 3.25.
I'm going to be lower than that. I'm not, again, this is a beer trying to be many things. It's just not really a thing for me. I'm going to give it a 2.75.
Interesting. So I'm going to be right between the two of you, which again,
Stuck in
I don't wish on my worst enemy.
yeah, not really a fun place to be between the two of you, but I'm
Love you.
choosing to be there, I guess. I'm going to go 3.0, and Producer Nash is actually giving it a 3.75, so he's the highest out of all of us.
Wow.
Nash,
All
right.
Nash,
Yeah.
100-yard dash being the highest. You normally don't see that. So in terms of our team overall score, that's going to give us 3.18, which in my opinion, we should bump up to a 3.25. Any disagreements with me?
I concur.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
All right. So that's all for our conversation of Stonepicker and their beers.
Yeah, so stay tuned because we're going to talk a bit about investing and financial literacy. All right, so because the 2020 RRSP deadline just passed, we thought it would be a good time to talk about investing and financial literacy in general. So just maybe to start it off, if we want to talk about like what is our kind of level of knowledge when it comes to investing? Like, are we kind of beginners, moderates, experts, any of us?
More money, more problems, right?
I believe it's Mo money.
Yeah,
More money,
problems.
more problems. In terms of investing, like I'm pretty confident in what I give my financial advisor at the bank. I'm like, hey, can you invest in this, this, and this?
Yeah.
Like I would say I would, in terms, like, you know, when you go to your meeting with a financial advisor, are you low risk? Are you medium risk? Are you high risk?
Right.
What do
I
you
would
say?
say I'm medium to high. Like, I'll take a loss of a couple $100. I mean, it is what it is. But if the gain could be 10,000, I'm going to take that chance
Yeah.
because I want more money. What can I say?
You want more problems.
Yeah, you
Fair,
want
I
more
do,
problems.
yes.
So I think before we kind of start this, I think it's always good to put a disclaimer out there. Is that anything that we discuss is of our own opinion. Take nothing that we say
100%.
as financial advice. And I think
do not say anything that I say. Do not go and do that.
Yeah,
Pretty much
we
is
are
what we're
not
saying here.
financial
Not
advisors.
financial advisors.
Everyone get
Right.
advice based on your own situation,
Right.
basically.
Yeah,
Agreed.
and I think it's
Agreed.
good, and we all have different opinions.
Yeah.
So for myself, I'm going to probably put myself in the moderate category. I don't want to say I'm an expert with it. I started doing my investments, and we'll talk about it as we move along.
Yeah.
About 2 years ago now, my own kind of investments, and I've reached out and I've done the whole financial advisor conversation. I kind of use that as leverage to understand of where they would take me as to kind of where I was already at and where I wanted to go with it. So I'm going to put myself in the moderate, medium kind of camp.
Yeah, I would
Always,
agree.
always learning.
Yeah, I would agree with that for myself. I think there's, like you said, there's always something to learn. I like doing research myself to kind of understand some some types of investments to invest in.
Right.
And like I love to do that research myself and kind of learn everything.
For sure.
So Nash, because he's also part of us right now.
Yes.
He's fairly fresh out of school, right? So he's still got some tuition credits, but he's interested. Hopefully, when he's at a point when his career takes off and everything like that, that he can invest pretty wisely, right? So he does have a financial advisor, as well as disability, critical illness insurance, as well as life insurance policies, because like we should all have life insurance.
Absolutely.
And
For sure.
I'll get it in a bit.
Yep.
He also has a TFSA account. Because he likes to save tax-free, and did have an RESP to save up for when he went to school for a crap ton of years.
So,
Years.
so when we speak about this, is like I get so passionate about this, and I've had a fair amount of friends and people that I know reach out and say, "Hey, like, what are you doing? How do you do it? Like, what are you looking at?" Right? And I mean, my own kind of like portfolio, and I had 10, 12 bank accounts kind of set up, and how I work those, and I mean, there's different types of TFSAs, right? You can have a bank, whether it's the top 5 TFSA account or EQ Bank right now. They're not sponsoring us, but they have a 2.
They could, though.
They could.
Yeah, if they're listening.
They have a 2.5% on just a TFSA account. Now, you could take that a step further, and I think this is it's in stages, right? You could have a bank account that's a TFSA. You can then have a Questrade or Wealthsimple or another kind of investing company.
Yeah.
And you can set up your own. You could have a robo-advisor take care of it, right? You can have a financial planner take care of it. And so it's still a TFSA, but it's just who manages it. Now, for myself personally, I have a TFSA through Questrade. And I manage my own ETFs, so electronic funds, right? So it's a grouping of stocks, and I manage it. So all country, U.S., Canada, a REIT, a dividend. And I take care of my own investing, because the thing is with me, if anybody's going to lose me money, it's going to be myself. If anybody's going to make me money, it's going to be myself. So I only have myself to blame, or myself to kind of pat on the back.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at.
And I'm more of a person that I have a trust in my financial advisor, who's at a bank, not to be named, but where like we have a good relationship. Like, hey, if you feel confident in investing in that, go nuts.
Sure.
Just don't lose me a crap ton of money.
Yeah.
If you're gonna lose me a couple $100 in order to go up like long term, like short term pain for long term gain, I'm fine with that. That's not an issue with me. But we have a good relationship, I think.
So we've mentioned a couple acronyms, and I think as part of that kind of financial literacy, I want to kind of step back a little bit, and if people aren't kind of familiar with them, kind of explain them. So an RRSP, so that's a registered retirement savings plan. Basically, that's a way for you to save for retirement by getting tax breaks now.
So if we can talk about
I guess deferring tax, I should say.
Right. So So if we could talk a little bit just about that. So I don't have an RRSP.
Right.
So I do have a pension through my employment. So it's different situations might dictate different things.
For sure. Depends on your employer, really. For sure.
And for myself, I'm trying to maximize my TFSA, and we'll get to that shortly. So I don't know if anybody else has an RSP.
I actually have 3 of them.
Okay.
To be honest with you.
Yeah, so I have a pension as well with my employer, and an RRSP as well. So that's a good point, because RRSPs can be matched by your employer,
right?
And as well as your pension. So your pension is probably going to be matched by your employer,
right?
To varying degrees.
It's just nice to get everything matched.
Really. Yeah, I mean, and that's
a
really
nice
a huge point. Is if you are getting matches from your employer, that's where you want to put your money first. Max out your matches so that you can get the most quote unquote free money before you invest your money in other different accounts.
Not necessarily, but anyways, go ahead. So go to TFSA.
Everyone's situation is different.
Fight.
Yeah.
So a TFSA is a tax-free savings account. So basically, all the money that you're putting into that is already been taxed, but any gains that you have on those investments are tax-free. So you don't have to pay capital gains, that sort of thing.
That's correct.
So the way that sits right now is, I think it's about $72,000. 70,000, somewhere
somewhere
in that
So
ballpark.
if you were
when you're
18 years old in 2009, I think when it was introduced, you have about
with zero contributions.
With zero, then you have about 72,000, and right now it's $6,000 per year is getting added.
That's pretty crappy because I was 17 in 2009. So
Yeah, but that means you still have 72,000 that you can contribute all the way up.
I mean, I don't contribute that much per year, but
No,
but
not per year.
it carries over.
It carries forward.
Yeah.
So you get 72,000 overall, roughly around there. So my logic, this is what I use personally, is that I will fill up my TFSA before I put any money into an RSP. Now, the only caveat with that is if I was going to buy a house. So I put all my money into a TFSA, and then realizing that I'm going to purchase a house, I take that money from my TFSA, flip it into RRSP, and then purchase the house with an RSP for the home buyer's plan, which I think Brett might have done something similar.
yeah,
with
that's pretty much was my down payment on my house was doing the first time home buyer credit.
So that way, you
which
get the
is a great program to help people.
you got to pay it back within
into a
15
home.
years,
Yeah.
but I've already paid that back.
But not just that, but then you also get the tax benefits of it. So
Initially,
as a first time home buyer, that's how I'm going to kind of look at swinging something like that.
Yep.
And granted, it's very difficult for a first time home buyer to get in right now. Luckily for producer Nash, he got in. Right.
So those are RSPs, TFSAs. Hit us with the RESP, and then we'll kind of go into it a little bit more.
Yeah. So the RESP, Brett, that really applies to you and I right now with children. So basically, that's saving for your children's retirement.
You're really planning long term here.
Their education. So
They'll
it's the registered education savings. But I got retirement on my mind.
Yeah. And the thing that I do is literally I flip the baby bonus, if you will, flip that into an RSP.
Yes, exactly.
And then bam, you're
taken
keeps
care
growing.
of.
I'm taking the government money, putting it into more government money, so then it's all government money.
Right, because that's a good point. So in the RESP, the federal government will match 20% of your contributions per year up to $500 per year to a maximum of $7,200 for the lifetime of the child. So it's, again, free money. Take advantage of free money.
Right.
Like
Who doesn't like free money?
Exactly.
Sure. So one thing with myself, I mentioned that I have some friends that have reached out and said, how are you kind of doing things? Because it seems very scary, and it really isn't.
And there are a lot of options.
And I put some money into the stock market, and I kind of learned kind of the ins and outs of it with some fun money, if you will, just a small investment, just to kind of learn how things work and how Quest Trade works, because that's who I've used. But I've been fairly successful in my stock picks because I did originally do speculation. I chose a couple of different stocks, whether it was wood pellets or biogas or whatever it might have been, and then taken that and then also set up an ETF only account, which I talked about earlier, which is all country, Canada, REITs, dividends, USA, and had my own kind of portfolio, which is what you would get if you went to a financial advisor. So I set that up myself, and I manage that all by myself. I don't
So
use
what
the
Tyler's
advisor.
saying is he has many Swiss bank accounts / Cayman Island accounts that we should probably try to access pretty quickly.
There's a couple.
Good to know, right?
I'm just kidding. But I also started looking into cryptocurrency because it's always nice to be above and trying to take a look at things. So
The old Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
actually Cardona, but I get it. But either
Bitcoin.
way, either way. So I look at ETFs, which is essentially like you'd put money into it, and it would be a group of stocks.
So it's basically a mutual fund that's traded on the stock market.
Right.
Yeah. So a lot of people are probably familiar with mutual funds. The problem with mutual funds is really high fees, and
you hear the sirens in the background.
Yeah.
I was
It's
going to say,
crazy.
speaking of really high fees, that ambulance ride.
not so much in Canada as it would be the US. So there's
So
that.
true.
So then, with the ETFs, you get lower fees, generally speaking.
Right.
And generally, they're tracked to indexes. So they're not going to be like stock managers picking stocks. They're going to be tracked to the indexes.
The one thing that I probably need to get in more to, and this will come obviously as I get older and, settle down in terms of spending probably some money I shouldn't, will be more so investing in a lot more stocks, right? So it's seeing, okay, what's going to grow me from, if I give $100, what's going to get me $1,000 in a couple months or do long term, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think it's something that's going to take off, like, what Uber did, what
Yeah,
Bitcoin,
so-
etc. It's tough to figure that out.
Well, and that's just
But-
it. It's like stock speculation is really difficult. And I've kind of moved away from it. It's been fun, and I've kind of do that from time to time. But like your ETFs, I feel like is kind of, in my opinion, the best vehicle.
I agree.
The GICs, you know what you're guaranteed, but then again, you're getting 2%, whereas
Well, the rates right now are just awful.
it is because interest rates are low.
Yeah.
Whereas I know right now I'm getting probably about 14% on my portfolio.
yeah.
Right.
the
So-
one rate that isn't bad is mortgage rates.
Very true.
That's true.
Very, very good. I'm just going to say, does anybody have any other tips that they have for people? Again, these are just tips. These are not
Right.
like our person. Like, you can take it for what you want, but don't. That's pretty much with a grain of salt. Does anybody have any other tips that you want to state for people?
I think I've already mentioned it, but just wherever you can, take advantage of getting quote unquote free money, whether it's from the government or your employer, whatever's going to help you in the long
Right.
term.
So for myself, I think there's a couple. Invest as early as you possibly can.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be much, whether it's $5, $10. Start an automatic savings plan.
Yeah.
Get in it early. I listened to 2 different podcasts. I'll shout them out. So one is Build Wealth Canada, and the other one is Maple Money. They're really great at what they do, and they kind of break it down and put it in layman's terms. But save money as early as you possibly can. Set an automatic savings plan. Pay yourself first. Pay yourself every week, and put that money into something where you can make a decent percentage instead of paying somebody else a percentage to make a little bit of money back. So
Yeah.
The only thing I have is I really miss those ING Direct commercials. But good for Tangerine. That concludes our conversation on money management along with investing and financial literacy.
all right, that's all for today's episode.
Thanks again for listening. Make sure you listen every other Thursday as Craft Beer Connoisseurs releases a new episode, and on our off Thursdays when we release a producer special.
So make sure to tell your friends, family, and your favorite financial advisor because remember, they can make you more money.
So from all of us and producer Nash, I'm Tyler.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Chris, and together we're the Craft Beer Connoisseurs.